Hello everyone, today I will show you how to perform Library Manager, import tender BQ, pricing BQ, and lastly the tender analysis. So let's begin with logging in into our system. After we entered our login credentials, sign in. What we can do now is we click on the Build Space Pro button, and then we will be greeted with this empty page. So we first click on the Build Space logo over here, click here to begin, and then go to Library Manager. And then we have three different menus for us to choose. So let's take a look at the Resource Library first. Click on the Resource Library, and then we can observe to the left-hand side that there are different types of resources available for us to choose from. Now let's take a look into materials for the first part. So double click on the materials, and then take, for example, we wanted to take a look at the vibrated reinforced concrete. So we double click on this one. And then we would see list of different types of item available inside the reinforced concrete. You see grade 15 all the way to grade 55. And then to the right hand side, we can see the units and also the rates, which in this case is highlighted in blue, and also the wastage right over here. So now let's take a look at concrete grade 35. So we double click on the rates button over here. And then inside here, we can see list of suppliers and also their quoted rates available for us to choose from inside here. Take, for example, for Ahmad Albab Construction, they quoted at 130 ringgit, Tanjong Builders at 140, and so on. Because we have this type of library, this gave us a better library in a sense to accumulate and to store all of the quotation that we received from the suppliers. In a way, this will make a better documentation and also will give us a better pricing for a BQ later down the line. So take, for example, over here, we can see the current applied rates is 292 ringgit as we seen at the front page just now. So this price is actually dictated by this current rate display type. So it's basically a calculation between the list of suppliers that we have inside the system, and based on average, it will display this rates for us to have the bill up rates to be made. So take, for example, we also include Alibaba Construction and Global PCK Development into the mix, and then we can see the current applied rates changes to 244. So if we choose the different calculation, take, for example, I choose median for this case, we can see the current applied rates is changing to 240. Okay, similar to the labor and plant, total sub and also down there, the process or the idea is basically the same. So take, for example, we go to vibrated reinforced concrete, and then we will have the labor constant for this particular job. The labor is already pointed out in meter cube unit, and then the rate is at 28 ringgit. So if we so require to add a new type of resources, we can further click on the new resources over here. Or if we wanted to include another form of resources inside vibrated reinforced concrete, take, for example, we can click to add row and enter our types of items inside this particular resource. Okay, so now take, for example, we already have a big library resource library inside our system. So we can further go to the next step, which is the schedule of rates, also known as bill up rates. So inside bill up rates, nearly similar to the resource library that we've seen earlier, is the list of schedule of rates available for us to choose. So take, for example, we dive into master rates over here. So we double click on this one and then click to visit the vibrated reinforced concrete over here. And then we can examine the concrete grade 35 that we modify somehow on the resource library earlier, we can examine on the right hand side over here. It requires us to recalculate. So here we can see that once we made changes into the resources, and then everything inside the schedule of rates will correspond to the resources. So now we see here the price is 344.60 cents. If we click recalculate, so the price changes 290 ringgit, like so. So let's take a look into what BuildSpace has to offer in terms of schedule of rates. So click on the grade 35, for example, and then here we can see prices that helps to make up the rates that we already seen at the outside, 290 ringgit earlier. So the rates is actually made out of material price right over here, concrete grade 35, alongside the quantity 1 meter cube, the rates at 240, wastage at 5%, and the line total is at 252. Now if you take a look at labor, we can see here the labor for concrete for 1 meter cube rated at 28 ringgit. So the line total here is 28 ringgit. And then if you take a look at plant, yes, take a look at plant, we can see the hoist concrete over here rated at 10 ringgit per meter cube, and the line total is 10 ringgit. So
Once the price is added up,
we can see the total cost over here is at 290 ringgit. We can also further make a markup over here. Take, for example, I enter 5% for markup. Wait a few seconds to save. And then we can see the final cost is at 304 ringgit 50 cents for this particular item, for this particular grade 35 concrete. So once we completed all of the vibrated reinforced concrete and everything inside the schedule of rates, these prices over here will be then be used during our pricing of a blank PQ. It's as simple as that.
so now this is the typical login page for a e-project on the developer side. So once we enter our credentials over here and then we click on sign in, so we will be greeted with this home page. So we go to the
Project button away by clicking on the left hand side button over here. So now take for example, we are participating in this particular project, cadangan membina kompleks kilang otomotif berteknologi hijau di daerah Pekan Pang. Okay, so we click on this. Okay, and then we can see the project dashboard details over here, so we can examine the contract numbers, the title, the address, everything. If we show that this is the tender that we are participating for, so we can straight away go to documents and click on the tender documents over here. So what we can do now is we scroll to the lowest down here and then download the drawings file. So once the drawing has already been completed the download process, and then we have already examined the drawings, we can then scroll back up and then we go to this BQ file over here. So we click on open, and then we can see the eBQ file stated over here. So what we can do now is we click to download. Okay, and then the system will automatically download it into our designated downloads file. Okay, as we can see down here, the file has already been downloaded. So if in the event of this particular message being popped up on our screen, afraid not, this is just a reminder that the eBQ file is not, we don't have any software to open eBQ file. So just ignore this one. So click OK, and then go back to our build space, and then click on the build space logo, go to the tendering over here. Okay, now on this page, we can see the list of projects that we are already tendering for. So what we do next is we click on the import tender project over here. So click on this one, select the eBQ file, go to the downloads folder, and then we can see the file is right over here. So click on open. It's uploading the data. and then we can observe the bills available inside that particular EBQ file. So what we can do next is we click on import button, give it a few seconds, and then we can observe right up here the project that we just imported from the client's project. Okay, so we double click on this project, and then right now we can proceed to examine the bills available inside the project. Take for example, we go into frame. Okay, we double click on the frame, and then in here we can see the items laid out nicely, the description over here, the item type over here, the units, quantity, and then we can straight away input our rates here, similar to the one we did in EBQ. Take for example here, I key in 330 ringgit for grade 35 concrete, take for example. Or in order to maximize the use of build space in this instance, so we can go back to the project breakdown and then click on the import rates button right up here. So we click on import rates. Available for us on the top side over here, we can see the list of bill up rates that we just created earlier. So you can see here the master rates, and also on the bottom side here we can see the bills that we are attempt to pricing for. So we double click on the bills, and then take for example, for this instance we wanted to price the frame elements. So we double click on frame, give it a few seconds, and then down here we can see all the items inside this BQ for frame available for us to fill, like the one we just input our rates earlier at 330. So now let's go back to the schedule of rates up here and then find the bill up rates that we already made. So we go to the master rates, and for now we attempt to price the vibrated reinforced concrete. So we go to VRC grade 35. So we tick on every item that uses these particular types of concrete. So here grade 35 and click on import. So now we can observe the rates is imported, and then it is highlighted in green, indicating that the rates over here is belonging to bill up rates inside our library. So we can proceed to continue pricing other items as well. Take for example, for reinforcement, R10. So in the event of, take for example, our computer suddenly shuts down, and then we doesn't have the time to, usually for Excel file, sometimes we don't make it to save it just in time. And if we using Excel file, sometimes the file might be corrupted, or we may lost everything in the process when the laptops is shutting down. But different to cloud, every time we click on something, take for example, we click import, everything is automatically saved, like we can observe over here. Okay, take for example, if right now my computer were to die, to shut down by itself, so everything that I've already input in here would remain the same, and then I can pick up where I left off immediately once my computer is up and running. Okay, so we go back to the 12 millimeter, click on import, and last for the reinforcement, the 10 mm diameter. Okay, we can further scroll down, and then we can see over here formwork needed to be input our rates for. So we go to formwork, and then timber formwork over here, click on import. All right, so now we completed for this particular elements. So we also needed to complete pricing for everything inside the BQ, because it's our responsibility, and increase our chance of obtaining the particular project. So once finished, we click on the back to tendering button. Okay, And then over here, we can see the original amount, the overall total, and also the percentage of project. So this overall total is basically the amount that we just input into the bill earlier. Okay, so once we further price every single items inside the bill, this overall total will increase. Okay, now we can observe to the left over here is the total markup by percentage and RM. So we can also make use of the markup function inside the system to perform this action. So how we can do so is we go to the bill, and then inside the bill, take for example, go to the any items and then click on the bill properties. And down here, we can see the markup setting. So we need to enable both elements markup and also item markups. So how we can do so is we click on action, click on enable, click on save, similar to item level, enable and save. So once completed, we click on save button over here. So we can go back to the element trade list, and then inside here, on the element side, we can see the markup column here is available for us to fill. So take for example, I wanted to do a markup based on this particular element level at 10%, take for example. So I can enter it over here, and then it will automatically calculate the 10% based on the grand total, and then it will automatically generate a markup over here. Now take for example, we wanted to do a markup based on items. So we just dive in deeper into this particular elements. Take for example, for columns, I wanted to do a markup of 15%, take for example. And for beam, I wanted to do a markup for 3,000 ringgit. I can do so too. And then it will automatically calculate how much 3,000 in relative to percentage right over here. And then we can proceed to do markup for every single item if we so require. Okay, so now that markup dealt with, and then we can click reload over here. We can see the markup, total percentage markup over here, and also the total markup based on the amount over here. So now, take for example, we already completed the pricing of the tender, and we wanted to make sure that every single item is already priced. So we can go to the project analyzer, examine on the schedule of rates for the first time. Okay, we go schedule of rates, give it a few seconds. Okay, now we can see the master rates already loaded alongside the total over here. So master rates in this side, it indicates that the bill up rates that we use to price for this particular item. So the unsorted here means that every single item that have yet to be priced will be consolidated down here, and everything is priced will be inside here. So now we take a look at master rates. So basically this function, by using the schedule of rates, it's that we can see the overall quantity and cost for each of the trade. Take for example, for vibrator reinforced concrete, we can see the total amount over here, the reinforcement, total amount over here, and also the formwork. Take for example, we go deeper into vibrator reinforced concrete. Now here we can examine the grade of concrete that been used for this particular project, the rates, the markup, because we already altered the markup multiple percentage, so it will indicate multi over here, the total quantity, and also the total rates, total cost over here. So in the event that we wanted to change, alter something for this particular items, we can so choose to double click on the item, and then we can see and examine that this particular grade of concrete is using on frame, reinforced concrete frame over here. So if you wanted to make a changes over here, take for example, I wanted to change this to 330 ringgit. I can do so. So this one I changed to say 300 over here, and then we will have a final cost down here. All right. So if we made any alteration on this stage, it will not affect the library because this is somehow separated from the library in some ways. Okay, so once we've completed with the schedule of rates project analyzer, we can also dive in deeper into resource analysis part of the project analyzer. Okay, so we click on the resource part over here. Now here we can examine the total material price and can alter rates here immediately. So take for example, we go to materials also. So we go to the vibrated reinforced concrete, and then the rates here is multiple. So if you click on this one, we can see the rates that been used for this particular grade of concrete. And then if we double click on the description itself, okay, give it a few seconds. So now over here we can alter the rates. Say for example, I change this one to 300 and also the below one to 300 as well, like so. So we will have a total cost, new total cost right over here. So once we go back to tendering, okay, we would see the recalculate button available over here because we already made an adjustment to the project analyzer before. So we can proceed to click on the recalculate, and then the original amounts and the overall total will change according to the changes that we already made. So we click on recalculate, calculate. So the theme for this particular system is that everything is interrelated. So we don't need to do multiple jobs, tedious tasks, which would encourage something like a mismanagement of data or something like that. Okay, it's a lot of hassle. So now we can proceed to print final BQ for our documentation. So we can do so by clicking over here, click on with price. Okay, just to make sure that we've already completed pricing. Okay, we can see here the number of items here, click on print. Okay, now we can examine the work below lowest ground floor. Okay, we scroll further down to frame, and in frame over here we can see the rates and also the amount is laid out nicely, just like the one we would see on traditional BQ pricing. Okay, and also for the collection page over here will also be automatically available and automatically calculated. Okay, so once we are happy with this, we can proceed to export the rates. So this export rates function is useful for us to have the rates we already input inside the system, for it to be uploaded inside the client's eProject server. We can have upload these rates into the server so that it will synchronize our price inside our build space and the client's eProject in this instance.